the pharmaceutical team and we're going to introduce ourselves.
Hello, I'm Marika and I'm from Italy.
Hi, I'm Dalia and I'm from Germany.
I'm Karneet and I'm from India.
Hi, I'm Noor and I'm from Tunisia.
Hi, my name is Media and I'm from Germany.
Hi, my name's Matt and I'm from the US.
During the International Industry Analysis lectures, we did an in-depth study of the pharmaceutical industry, which we will talk about in a few short minutes.
We wanted to take this opportunity in order to emphasize that we really enjoyed this course, as it enabled us to have the tools necessary in order to analyze any industry in our future career. So thank you, Professor, for your support during this course, and hopefully you will enjoy our analysis. Thank you.
Thank you.
The pharmaceutical industry is a critical sector that focuses on the discovery, development, and manufacturing of drugs and other pharmaceutical products. These products include prescription drugs, over-the-counter medication, vaccine, and other biological products used in the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of diseases and disorders. The industry is characterized by a sense of social responsibility, high profitability and economic impact, scientific knowledge, curiosity, and futuristic, innovative solutioning. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the pharmaceutical industry. The urgency to develop effective treatments and vaccines for the virus has accelerated the research and development process, leading to unprecedented collaborations and partnerships across the industry. The pandemic has also highlighted the importance of digital technologies in drug discovery, clinical trials, leading to increased investment in these areas. The industry has also faced disruptions in the global supply chain and changes in demand due to the pandemic, leading to the need for more resilient and flexible operations. Overall, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to the transformation of the pharmaceutical industry, with new opportunities and challenges emerging. Now we begin with the in-depth analysis of the demand in the pharmaceutical industry. The global pharmaceutical industry has experienced significant growth in recent years, driven by factors such as increasing demand for healthcare services, expanding aging populations, and rising prevalence of chronic diseases. Global revenues in the pharmaceutical industry are expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 5.5% from 2023 to 2026. The compound annual growth rate has seen an incline during and post-pandemic. The US and China are dominant players in the pharmaceutical market due to their large populations and high demand for healthcare services. Both countries are attractive markets for pharmaceutical companies and invest heavily in R&D, with the US spending over $80 billion and China over $40 billion in 2019. Other countries that lead the pharmaceutical market are Japan, Germany, and France. Customer segmentation in the pharmaceutical industry involves dividing the market into groups of customers with similar needs, characteristics, and behaviors. This allows pharmaceutical companies to develop targeted marketing strategies and tailor their products and services to the specific needs of each customer segment. In the B2C segment, we have individuals, especially the aging population, people with chronic illnesses or lifestyle diseases. This segment mainly consumes branded or generic drugs, cosmeceuticals, personal care products, hypoallergenic products, OTC or nutritional supplements, orphan drugs, fertility products, mental health drugs, pain management drugs. B2B segment consists of distributors to hospitals, private clinics, pharmacies, convenience stores, supermarkets, NGOs, laboratories, and the government. In addition to purchasing the same drug as the B2C segment, the B2B segment also buys NHI type of drugs, which are oncological, HIV, COVID-19 vaccination, etc., diagnostic products, medical devices, orphan drugs for rare diseases, and equipment for research and development. The motivation for purchasing and/or consumption of pharmaceutical drugs differs from segment to segment. In the B2C segment, for example, drugs are purchased for oneself, family, so children, or the elderly, or individuals with disabilities, and friends. These drugs are mainly purchased for light illness, need for vitamins or supplements, allergies, or prescribed chronic illness medications, and preventative health and personal care. In the B2B segment, which mainly consists of hospital, the government, etc., drugs are mainly purchased for patients. In developing countries, drugs are purchased to give out to the poorer population. Charities, research and development purchase drugs for research labs, and insurers purchase drugs for policyholders. These help provide cures to patients. Nationally, both NHI and private clinics help in purchasing and distributing these drugs. Prevention measures like vaccinations, which we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic, are also one reason why hospitals and the government purchase drugs. In this part of the analysis, we talk about when, where, and how pharmaceutical products are purchased. Even talking about the B2C segment, the demand can be seasonal, where in the winter months we see a certain increase of medication, for example, for the common cold and the flu. In other cases, it can be sporadic or involve periodic diseases, where people might go to their doctors and buy prescription drugs. Chronic illness medications can be bought on a regular basis, and during our analysis we realized that people buy pharmaceuticals at any time. Some may purchase on a regular basis due to chronic symptoms, while others may purchase on a need-to-need basis. These people also buy the products from pharmacies, parapharmacies, convenience stores, supermarkets, online or medical supply stores, and they really prefer buying the medication either in store or online. For the B2B segment, the demand often comes through inventory provision and restock, seasonal purchase depending on national health issues and concerns like the pandemic, clinical trial and research, and product launches. The B2B segment purchases the products directly through the pharmaceutical companies, distributors, retailers, companies, salespeople, group purchasing organizations, online marketplaces, and government agencies. And these orders, because of their large quantity, are mainly placed online or via the website. During our analysis of the pharmaceutical user segment, we observed 4 discernible user types: hypochondriacs, health and wellness enthusiasts, alternative medication takers, and prescription drug takers. US is the largest spender on pharmaceutical products, with a large sum of money spent on R&D, patenting, high demand due to large and varied population. The US spends more than double the amount on pharma products than the OECD countries. Prescription drugs have the highest share in the net income per segment as of 2022. This may be attributed partly because of brand recognition, and a lot of times due to lobbying and sales, a lot of hospitals and doctors recommend certain brands over the other. In terms of generics, which has the lowest market share of 4%, this may be due to lower perception of people about generics. Some people think that they're not advanced enough, they're not as effective as prescription drugs, and also there is a general belief that doctors know better and what they prescribe is the right sort of medication over just a generic brand. On the other hand, biotechnology is a close second and is at 41% of the net income per segment. This is due to the fact that biotechnology is very advanced and the products that they make are really expensive and generate a lot of profit for the companies.
Okay, so going to the EGOS analysis, we have determined, as Karnit said, 4 segments for the demand side. For the hypochondriacs, we defined that they are on the EGOS map on the S sheet. For health and wellness enthusiasts, they are characterized by E, O, and S. For alternative medicine takers, they are characterized by S and O. And finally, for prescription takers, they are characterized by O and G.
The ECOS map is a tool that is not only useful to identify the customer segments, but also very helpful for product development, for the sales training, and for team building. We can also divide the pharma industry from the demand side into 4 segments according to Bloom and Staples model. The first segment is characterized by high control over health. They're usually well educated and prioritize health. It's often translated into a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle. The second segment are usually followers and they rely on the doctor's recommendation. They have high acceptance of their subjective health. The third segment is characterized by viewing the disease as a threat, and so that they have low acceptance and high control. Finally, the fourth segment can be characterized as having both low acceptance and low control. They have tendency to neglect their well-being. So here we can visualize the previously mentioned personalities in the ECOS map. It's important to note that this tool can be used for targeted marketing. In the pharma industry specifically, it's very important to educate customers in order to drive demand, especially from some products such as over-the-counter drugs. Here we can visualize the 4 Bloom and Staples segments on the ECOS map. The segmentation model is a strategic tool that can be used to effectively gain competitive advantage by increasing customer loyalty, as knowledge of customer is key for the success of any marketing strategy. As part of this analysis, we also explored the growth of the industry. And as you can see here, the pharmaceutical industry has faced a significant growth and it's forecasted to grow even further in the future and across all the segments and categories. And this growth is driven by increased demand, advances in tech, rising healthcare spending, due to trends that we will explain later in the pastel. In the next part of the analysis, we explored the margins for each segment. For that, we did a Porter 5 forces analysis. From this analysis, we have concluded that the segment with the highest margin was the orphan drugs with 80%. Next, it was biotech with 52.62%. Finally, it was prescription and then generic. Note that while OTC margins are in the third position with 34%, this is a special case that reflects the high marketing that is related to this specific segment. The next part of our analysis was a risk analysis. When analyzing the risk for each segment, we can see that OTC carries the least amount of risk, while orphan drugs seems to be the riskiest segment. The pharma industry, like most other industries, is affected by sustainability and ESG trends. The high sustainability index segment seemed to be, from our analysis, biotech and generic, while the lowest was prescription. Here we want to highlight that some companies have successfully succeeded in ESG, like Novo Nordisk, while others are still lagging behind, like Purdue and the infamous case of OxyContin in America. So following our global analysis from everything that we saw before, so the risk, the margin, and ESG, we have concluded that biotech is the most attractive segment of the industry as it contains the highest sustainable value, while generic is the least attractive segment of the industry. Our pastel analysis highlights opposing trends. On one hand, there is the economic recession, political instabilities that can lead to supply chain disruption and affect negatively the demand side. On the other hand, there are some socio-demographic trends such as aging population, sedentary lifestyle, but also the increase of healthy lifestyle adoption and the development of AI, the digital healthcare services from the tech side that are bound to increase the demand.
Now let's move on to discussing another crucial part of the pharmaceutical industry analysis, which is, of course, after the demand, the supply chain. In this chapter, indeed, we will see how the manufacturing levels of the industry have evolved over time and how they're expected to mutate in the foreseeable future. And this, alongside our analysis, will provide you with a thorough understanding of the supply chain. To start with the supply chain analysis, we first of all gather some historical data about the manufacturing levels of the pharmaceutical industry in the last decade. And here, for example, we have a really interesting graph showing the European Union historical evolution of production, of pharmaceutical production in the last decade, from 2011 to 2021. And what is really interesting about this graph is indeed that, although it might be something unintuitive to think about, the production levels were actually experiencing quite a significant recession, and the growth indeed from 2017 to 2020 it significantly dropped down. In fact, it was the COVID-19 which brought a significant boost in the pharmaceutical production and helped the industry emerge from the recession it was experiencing. Here in turn, we can observe the pharmaceutical production levels forecast and how it is expected to change in the following decade. As we can see, the production levels are expected to triplicate their value by 2030. And this will not only increase the global spending by companies on a positive note, which is something that they're already doing and they're already implementing, but also will improve the equitable access to pharmaceutical products globally, which the COVID-19 pandemic highlighted. To better understand the pharmaceutical supply chain and the global distribution of pharmaceutical production by country at a worldwide level, we divide the production into two main areas. So on one side, there are APIs producers, which are a country highly specialized into the production of active ingredients. And on the other side, there are final product manufacturers, which are the ones that take those ingredients and finalize them into a product that will eventually be sold into the market. As regard with APIs, the leading countries are respectively the US and India with 28% and 18% of the market share. Final pharmaceutical production appears to be instead more concentrated compared to the one of APIs. And here again, we can find the US dominating production worldwide with 40% of the market share. And right after, we find China and Japan, which have approximately the same market share, so about 12 and 10% of the market. Right after, we have some specialized production also in Germany and in Switzerland. Let's now dive into the strategic groups. In order to have a deeper understanding of the main industry competitors, we have mapped different strategic groups and companies operating in the pharmaceutical field. We base this on product category identified in the demand analysis, as well as on the R&D expenditure by each company. And we identified 7 main strategic groups. We can see that the pharma companies that invest in higher R&D expenditures are the one operating in biotechnology and orphan drugs, both because they generate higher profit from this, and also because they're still looking for alternative and new treatments that right now don't exist. And an example of this strategic group is, for example, the one of Amgen and Moderna. Similarly, the big pharma, so companies covering all the 5 product categories, have the highest R&D expenditure because they have to develop and to research multiple drugs simultaneously. And on the other side, finally, we have the ones with the lower R&D expenditures, which are generics. And generics do not need particular innovation, if not to improve the already existing formulation, because they simply replicate the active ingredients that it's developed by the other 4 categories of pharmaceuticals, such as, for example, the one of the strategic group of Teva and Milan on the very left. Of course, there's not a single way in which we can identify and determine strategic groups in the industry. So let's now take another approach and examine another way of grouping companies in the pharmaceutical industry. Here, for example, we have identified 5 strategic groups based on the therapeutic area of focus, which include neurology, oncology, cardiovascular, respiratory, as well as viral and infective diseases. As we can see from the strategic grouping, the companies which invest the highest R&D amount are the ones operating in neurology and oncology, such as, for example, Roche and Biogen. And this is because the significant need for innovation in this field and the extensive research that is required due to their complexity, of course. Respiratory and cardiovascular diseases are also important therapeutical areas with a moderate R&D expenditure. And in contrast, the ones that expend less are the one operating in the viral infected diseases, which are generally mostly funded by the government when infectious diseases outbreak, and they have also shorter treatment durations and a clear drug development path, so they don't need to have such an extensive expenditure, such as, for example, Sanofi. So now let's take a look at the industry structure of the pharmaceutical industry, which, as we can observe, is a really fragmented one. Looking at the industry life cycle, innovative companies such as Moderna and BioNTech generally place itself in the introduction phase. And this is because they're the one developing and using new disruptive technologies. And these companies, of course, have a high level of investment in R&D, as well as a higher risk for developing such drugs. Established companies are generally positioned in the growing phase, which is dominated by the big pharma. And so being these the main competitors in the industry and having a larger market share, big pharma companies can easily adopt and develop new drugs and treatment after they've been discovered and they've been appropriated. Subsequently, there is the maturity stage, which is characterized by companies focused on high differentiation. And in this case, of course, we include branded drugs and OTC, as well as prescripted medication. And Sanofi, for example, Bayer, Johnson & Johnson are leaders in the field. And finally, in the last stage, which is the decline stage, we find the generic drugs and companies which focus themselves more on providing accessible and reliable medication for generic common diseases, such as Teva and Milan. All that being said, we can now enter one of the most interesting phases of the supply chain analysis, which is the industry value chain. In this case, in the case of the pharmaceutical industry, we can see all the stages that the drug goes through before reaching the final end consumer, which are research, development, marketing and sales, and distribution. First of all, the drug starts with the research stage, where the innovative drug development is carried out, and this is done generally by companies focused on innovation, such as big pharma and biotech startups. Once the drug candidate has been identified, the development stage begins, and the drug undergoes a serious formulation, preclinical testing to ensure its safety and efficacy. And this is done, for example, through in vitro animal testing, as well as toxicological procedures. Right afterwards, the drug is submitted for regulatory approval, when the clinical testing begins. So this is generally conducted through 4 main phases, which are, first of all, the testing on humans, second, the testing on a contained population sample, thirdly, the drug is tested by a larger population, and finally, if all the stages go well, the drug is ultimately approved. After this, the regulatory process is not yet over, and the drug needs also to receive regulatory approbation, such as, for example, the marketing authorization application, in order to allow the formulation to enter the market and also grant a license to be sold. And finally, the drug has to undergo regulatory reviews and drug registration in each country. Lastly, the development stage includes the supply of ingredients for the new approved drugs, the oversight by both private companies and governments, and the manufacturing where the APIs are formulated and combined to finalize the product. Once approved and developed and also manufactured, the drug enters the marketing and sales stage where it's sold and distributed to a number of clients, which include healthcare providers, pharmacies, hospital, and supermarket and hypermarkets for OTC, of course. And this is done through online as well as physical channels. And at the end, after all this process has been carried out, it finally leads to the final end consumer. As we all know, and as we've seen from the previous slide, the pharmaceutical industry is in fact one of the most heavily regulated industries with numerous barriers to entry. However, there's still great opportunity to digitalize the industry. So let's now take a close look at how we can digitalize the four main areas of the pharmaceutical industry value chain and how, in fact, the industry is experiencing such digitalization. The first area is, of course, research and innovation. And two ways in which this area is digitalizing itself is through cloud-based simulation models and mobility-driven real-time electronic data. And the first one, for example, was found to even reduce costs by 50%. The second area is preclinical trials, where digitalization is significantly contributing in speeding up processes. Here we can digitalize in several ways through digital data collection, remotely monitoring of clinical participants, and also through the analysis of data and identity patterns with the help of the artificial intelligence. The third area is in turn manufacturing, and here in manufacturing we're experiencing digitalization in this area through process automation, 3D printing, which in fact is something really popular that is happening in industry, and also through digital twin technology. Finally, in the sales stage, when it's becoming more and more common to see pharmaceutical companies and pharmacies selling directly online, so through e-commerces. So this is leading to the creation of e-pharmacies on the internet. And another interesting way in which the pharmaceutical industry is digitalizing the sales stage is through telemedicine.
After having understood the industry value chain, let's dive deeper into the differences in strategic management within the pharmaceutical industry. As pharmaceutical companies mainly operate in the secondary sector, with a primary focus on manufacturing, as well as heavy investments in research and development, they can be considered to be more towards being a digital business. Pfizer, a well-known name in the industry, is a great example of a more traditional business that takes a conservative approach to formulation. Pfizer has a long history of developing and manufacturing traditional small molecule drugs using a complex process of mixing and blending various active and inactive ingredients, followed by testing and refinement. On the other hand, Roche serves as an excellent example of a digital business that employs an agile approach to execution. They use robotics and automation to streamline processes such as packaging and labeling, which improves accuracy and speed. Real-time monitoring and data analytics also optimize their manufacturing processes, enabling them to identify and address any inefficiencies or quality issues quickly. This digital approach has been a successful strategy for the company, allowing them to be more agile in responding to changes in the market and meeting customer demand. Now we'll explore 3 unicorns in the pharmaceutical industry that showcase its potential for innovation and disruption. First up, there's Moderna, a biotech company specializing in developing mRNA-based vaccines and therapies. Their COVID-19 vaccine has been widely used, and their mRNA technology has the potential to revolutionize vaccine development for other diseases as well. Next, there's Guardant Health, which focuses on developing less invasive liquid biopsy tests for cancer. Their tests can detect cancer at earlier stages and help determine the most effective treatments for each patient. Guardant Health has partnerships with many pharmaceutical companies to help develop and test new cancer treatments. Lastly, There's Wuxi AppTech, a Chinese pharmaceutical company that provides research and development services to over 3,000 customers worldwide in the biopharmaceutical industry. Their services include drug discovery, preclinical development, clinical trials, and manufacturing of small molecule drugs and biologics. They have facilities in China, the US, and Europe. Digitalization has transformed the pharma industry by providing organizations with better control over their manufacturing processes. With advanced product monitoring, visualization, and remote data access capabilities, companies can identify and improve processes, ultimately enhancing the quality of their products. However, the greatest impact on the pharmaceutical industry is expected to come from AI and big data technologies. These disruptive technologies have the potential to enable the industry to develop more personalized treatments and improve patient outcomes. By leveraging the power of AI and big data, the pharmaceutical industry can continue to innovate and create life-changing therapies for patients worldwide. The following examples of digital transformation demonstrate how technology is transforming every level of the industry value chain, from manufacturing to patient care. One interesting example of digital transformation in the pharmaceutical industry is the Internet of Things, which is transforming the manufacturing process of pharmaceuticals by enabling real-time monitoring of equipment performance. GlaxoSmithKline has implemented IoT devices to monitor its manufacturing equipment. The data collected from these devices is analyzed in real time, allowing GSK to identify potential problems and take corrective action before they cause major issues. This helps GSK minimize downtime, reduce maintenance costs, and improve overall efficiency. IoT can also help improve product quality by monitoring environmental factors such as temperature and humidity to ensure that the manufacturing process is within optimal conditions, reducing the risk of product defects or contamination. Another example is the use of blockchain technology for supply chain management. This technology enables the industry to track drugs in real time as they move from the manufacturer to the distributor to the pharmacy, providing transparency and security throughout the supply chain. Blockchain technology creates a permanent tamper-proof record of each transaction, which is stored in a decentralized database, accessible to all authorized parties in the supply chain. This enables all parties to verify the authenticity and integrity of the drugs they are handling, ensuring that drugs are delivered to the right patients at the right time. Companies like MediLedger and IBM are leading the way in blockchain-based supply chain solutions for the pharmaceutical industry. Health tech is dominating the pharma industry trends in 2023. One of the most prominent trends is the Internet of Medical Things, which includes medical and wearable devices, sensors, and other healthcare-related technology integrated with cloud systems. Wearable devices like smartwatches and pulsometers that collect health data are great examples of IoT devices. Companies like Apple, Google, and Fitbit are leading the way in this trend. Another growing trend is augmented and virtual reality. AR and VR are used for various reasons, including training health providers for surgical and emergency situations, reducing human error, and training for the use of medical equipment. Medical students use these technologies to practice surgeries and improve their skills. Companies like Microsoft and Oculus are among the pioneers in AR and VR technology. The success of health tech can be attributed to several factors, including rapid advancements in technology, increasing globalization and digitalization, and the growing adoption of value-based care models. These factors have increased the demand for remote and digital solutions that enable patients to access healthcare services from anywhere in the world. These trends will continue to shape the pharma industries in the years to come. The pharmaceutical industry has traditional and non-traditional players, with GlaxoSmithKline, for example, being an established multinational big pharma company, and Orca Bio being one of the newer players in the pharma industry, more specifically in the biotech industry. GSK develops drugs targeting all patients and focuses on oncology, immunology, HIV, and infectious diseases. It uses a multitude of channels for communication, such as traditional salespeople, as well as a global marketing model with a personalized approach. On the other hand, Orca Bio commercializes cell-based therapeutics for serious diseases, mainly specializing in cell therapy for oncology and immunology. With more revolutionary drugs and techniques, it mainly uses digital integrated communication and press releases or traditional media. When it comes to convenience, GSK is selling directly in 27 countries and via suppliers or pooled procurement in additional 65 countries, while Orca Bio has a high level of convenience, with high-tech and integrated technology, but it can be difficult to evaluate products since most of their technology is at the final phases of clinical trials. When it comes to scalability, GSK is a market leader, owning nearly 24% of market share for global vaccine revenue, but they have strong competitors. Orca Bio has a very high potential for scalability, since it is still a new company in its growth stage, and once it finishes the trials for some of its technologies, it is believed that it will gain market share. Moreover, the company has the potential to expand to other therapeutic areas. In terms of data, GSK is assumed to have a mixture of all types of data at its availability due to its long-standing stance in the industry and its large scale. On the other hand, Orca Bio, being a new and very high-tech biotech company, is assumed to have very integrated data systems. The pharmaceutical industry is made up of two main groups, big pharma and smaller companies or startups trying to shake up the market. But as big pharma acquires more innovative biotech companies, the line between traditional and non-traditional players becomes less clear. Additionally, big pharma is expanding into emerging markets to stay ahead of the game. We can place organizational cultures in the supply side of the pharmaceutical industry into the 4 dimensions of the EGOS map. The E dimension drives innovation in drug development, vaccines, and biotechnology. Companies like Pfizer exemplify this dimension with their research-driven approach and breakthrough medications, such as the COVID-19 vaccine. The G dimension focuses on the supply of effective, accessible, and affordable drugs and vaccines. Johnson & Johnson is an example of a company operating in this dimension, ensuring accessibility and affordability while maintaining high quality. The O dimension emphasizes efficient manufacturing of generics, immunization products, and vitamins or supplements. Teva Pharmaceutical Industries is a major player in this dimension, producing a wide range of affordable medications. The S dimension represents the social aspect of the industry, with pharmacies and parapharmacies providing direct healthcare services. Boots UK, for instance, operates a network of pharmacies and offers various health services beyond medication dispensing. These organizational cultures within the EGOS map highlight the diverse roles and contributions of players in the pharmaceutical supply chain. By leveraging the synergy between these dimensions, the industry enables the development, manufacturing, and delivery of life-saving medications and healthcare products. There are different revenue models in the pharmaceutical industry that enable companies to shape their business strategies and profitability. Traditional pharmaceutical companies like J&J, GSK, and Pfizer follow the producers and service providers model. They develop innovative medications and provide related services. Retailers like CVS and Walgreens sell pharmaceutical products directly to consumers. Digitalization has introduced new revenue models. Pure players and digital service providers use a subscription model for routine supplements, while digital influencers adopt an advertising and affiliation model to promote relevant products. Digital intermediaries like BlinkRx and Amazon Pharmacy operate as platforms to facilitate transactions. Digital infomediaries like WebMD provide information and education, relying on advertising. Digital communities like Vitalist.com serve as platforms for patient reviews and generate revenue through targeted advertisements. Implementing a freemium revenue model in the pharmaceutical industry is challenging, due to stringent regulations and quality checks ensuring patient safety and medication efficacy. Revenue models in the pharmaceutical industry vary from traditional producers and retailers to digital platforms, influencers, and online communities that are growing at the moment thanks to the big health tech trend. Companies need to adapt their models to meet evolving needs while complying with regulations. The Pestel analysis for the pharmaceutical industry on the supply side shows a mixed impact. Government policies and regulations can increase scrutiny of drug pricing, while efforts to encourage innovation bring challenges in bringing new products to market. Rising healthcare costs and demand for personalized medicine create pressures to demonstrate value and manage costs. Emerging markets offer opportunities, but come with regulatory and market challenges. Technological advancements provide data-driven insights and potential for faster drug development. While environmental sustainability brings additional costs but market differentiation, changes in legislation can affect profitability. In summary, the supply analysis of the pharmaceutical industry reveals a dynamic landscape influenced by various factors. There is a growing integration of innovative approaches. Navigating complexities is crucial for pharmaceutical companies to ensure a sustainable and efficient supply chain, while meeting the healthcare needs of a diverse and evolving population.
Hi, and welcome to Chapter 3, including the strategic issues. In the pharmaceutical industry, strategic alliances through mergers and acquisition have become a prevailing strategic orientation. To remain competitive amidst globalization pressure, companies are utilizing strategic dimensions like product markets, vertical integration, internationalization, and diversification. They strategically compete through product-based plans and synergies with biotech and CROs, acquiring patents, improving R&D, and reducing cycle time and costs. Additionally, they pursue vertical integration via M&A for innovative drugs and internal development to expand into less risky segments like OTC. These strategies enable pharmaceutical firms to adapt, grow, and thrive in a dynamic marketplace, as explained in this chapter. In the following example, competitiveness of products is driven by therapeutical areas and their attractiveness within different pharmaceutical segments. Our product market matrix represents this relationship. For instance, OTC treatments show high attractiveness, especially in neurological conditions like migraine, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer. However, the market for these areas is already intense with established competitors. Despite significant entry barriers, orphan drugs remain highly attractive for multinational pharmaceutical firms. By 2013, the orphan drug market is projected to reach a substantial of $433 billion. Understanding these dynamics help pharmaceutical companies strategically position themselves for success. Also, the geographical area plays a crucial role in determining the attractiveness of therapeutic areas as shown in the product market matrix. Disease prevalence tends to be concentrated in specific geographical areas. Attractiveness is influenced by factors like the country's healthcare system and resource availability. Developing countries in Africa and Asia hold promise due to their unsaturated markets. Reversed, America faced the highest burden of disease globally. Understanding these dynamics helps pharmaceutical companies strategically identify areas with the greatest potential for growth and market expansion. The innovation positioning of pharma companies relies on R&D investments and production costs. In the category of innovation pioneers with high technological competences, Roche leads with pioneering work in biotechnology. For innovation pioneers with lower technological competences, Regeneron Pharmaceutical focuses on AI and machine learning. Among the followers with high technological competences, Moderna excels in producing the COVID-19 vaccine. Finally, Sandoz International stands out as a follower with lower technological competences, focusing on offering affordable drugs. These examples illustrate how companies strategically position themselves based on their innovation capabilities and market offerings. For further examples, feel free to pause the video. Companies should undertake different innovation types depending on their attractiveness and competitiveness. The slide shows innovation options that are relevant for the pharma industry, such as concept, continuous improvement, service, process, reformulation, and packaging. Innovation plays a crucial role in addressing unmet medical needs and improved patient outcomes. The development of new medication, therapies, and advanced technologies becomes a primary focus for driving innovation and advancing healthcare solutions. Let's have a closer look on a medical breakthrough innovation. Viagra and alpostradiol from Pfizer exemplify blue ocean innovation in the pharmaceutical industry. Viagra created a new market space by targeting an untapped consumer segment, revolutionizing the treatment of erectile dysfunction. In contrast, alpostradiol entered as a Me Too product, competing directly with existing treatments. The success of Viagra showcases the power of blue ocean innovation in creating uncontested market space and driving substantial growth. In general, the pharma industry faces hurdles in creating blue ocean strategies due to high R&D costs and strict regulations. In the industry, vertical integration plays a key role in both upstream and downstream activities. Generics exhibit upstream integration in R&D and procurement, with downstream integration in marketing, distribution, and service. OTC focuses on upstream integration in R&D, procurement and operations, while core activities revolve around marketing, distribution and service. Biotech, orphan and prescription drugs prioritize R&D as their core activity, with downstream integration in procurement, operations, marketing, distribution and service. Vertical integration upstream ensures a reliable supply chain and quality control, while downstream integration provides greater control over distribution and marketing, cost reduction and increased profits. Understanding these integration strategies helps pharmaceutical companies optimize their operations and enhance competitiveness. Firms like Merck optimize their operations by strategically adjusting their firm infrastructure across their value chain. The flow showcases the order of value chain processes and the degree of internal or external focus for Merck. Strategic outsourcing in the pharmaceutical industry can be categorized into 4 types. R&D outsourcing involves partnering with contract research organizations for preclinical studies, clinical trials, and drug discovery, as companies such as GlaxoSmithKline and AstraZeneca are doing. Manufacturing outsourcing entails leveraging contract manufacturing organizations for cost reduction and specialized expertise. Pfizer and Novartis are examples therefore. Supply chain outsourcing involves partnering with logistic providers for improved efficiency, such as Eli Lilly and Pfizer are practicing. IT outsourcing involves engaging IT service providers for software development and data management. Companies that employ IT outsourcing include Merck and Johnson & Johnson. Factors like sales, growth, margin, risk, sustainability, and overall assessment help pharmaceutical companies assess regional attractiveness and make strategic decisions. In the pharmaceutical industry, regional attractiveness assessment reveals that currently the US and Europe are highly attractive due to their stable returns and strong regulatory environments. However, Asia and emerging markets are repeatedly catching up with growing demand and significant growth potential. Despite higher costs and risks, these regions offer existing opportunities for expansion. Understanding regional dynamics is essential for navigating the global pharmaceutical landscape. After the assessment of attractive regions, let's talk about how to internationalize as a pharmaceutical company. Prioritizing licensing and subsidiaries while also addressing regulatory and market access constraints is crucial for internationalization in the pharmaceutical industry. Modes such as transactions, investment, or projects enable global expansion. Contract manufacturing and research are seen as key internationalization modes, as they enable companies to partner with local organizations to improve market access and competitiveness. Successful examples include GlaxoSmithKline's management contract with Aspen and Pfizer's global franchising operations. In this industry, strategic and complementary markets play a vital role. Strategic markets, including the US, European Union, and Japan, offer significant growth and innovation potential. Complementary markets like Singapore or Israel provide valuable collaboration opportunities. Regions with low firm and country advantages, such as Africa and Southeast Asia, represent complementary markets with high untapped potential. Brazil, India, and China exhibit high country advantage but varying from firm advantages, making them strategic or complementary markets. Understanding these markets' distinctions helps pharmaceutical companies tailor their strategies for growth and collaboration. Global integration and local responsiveness are fundamental concepts in international business strategy. Global integration involves standardizing operations and products across markets to achieve cost reduction and economies of scale. Local responsiveness entails adapting operations and products to meet the specific needs and preferences of local markets, enhancing competitiveness. Companies can be classified based on their global presence and structure. Global companies such as Pfizer have a strong presence in multiple countries, while transnational companies such as Novartis operate with decentralized autonomy. Local companies like Hikma focus on a single country or region, and multinational companies such as AstraZeneca have operations in various countries. These strategies and classifications enable companies to navigate international markets effectively. Let's talk about diversification. Diversification allows companies to broaden portfolios, enter new markets, and enhance competitiveness. It fosters innovation and drives sustained growth. Even if diversification is not common in the pharma industry, companies that do benefit from synergies and technological advantages. These strategies include related diversification with technological and commercial synergies, related diversification with commercial synergies, related diversification with technological synergies, and unrelated diversification. Other sectors, as an example Kodak, are also entering the pharmaceutical market. The pharmaceutical industry is dominated by large players in North America and Europe. Conglomerates like Bayer and Johnson & Johnson are highly diversified. They leverage their business models to spread risk, reduce costs, and achieve operational efficiency. Operating globally, they manage complex supply chains, diverse stakeholders, and regulatory environments. Their presence enables them to serve patients worldwide and address diverse healthcare needs. Conglomerates such as national champions, emerging market leaders, global specialists, technological groups, or investment groups are influential players, and Johnson & Johnson serves a prime example. As a diversified company, Johnson & Johnson operates across multiple healthcare sectors, including pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and consumer healthcare products. With a strategic focus on creating a global brand, leveraging technology, and maintaining a widespread presence, Johnson & Johnson demonstrates a commitment to innovation and growth. Their acquisition in robotic technologies and investments in digital health showcase their dedication staying at the forefront. With a diverse portfolio and a strong management, Johnson & Johnson remains a prominent and competitive force in the pharmaceutical conglomerate landscape. Let's talk about strategic alliances. In the pharmaceutical industry, strategic alliances are formed early in the drug development, with the majority of deals occurring during the discovery and preclinical stages. Oncology emerges as the leading segment with the highest number of alliances, while CNS leads in deal value, followed by oncology and rare diseases. These collaborations foster innovation and address unmet medical needs, driving advancements in the pharma sector. The pharma industry has witnessed an unpredicted level of collaboration driven by the urgency of the COVID-19 pandemic. Competitors joined forces to develop vaccines and diagnostics, while collaborations with companies from various sectors enhanced manufacturing capabilities and accelerated digitalization efforts. This slide showcases major global alliances, amplifying the industry's transformation into a collaborative global ecosystem. Let's have a look on some examples. The pharmaceutical industry has partnerships with technology partners to fuel innovation and diversification. Partnerships to share real-world data, drug discovery, and improve diagnostics are reshaping the landscape. These alliances offer valuable support for drug development, clinical expertise, and risk mitigation, while unlocking access to partners and technologies beyond conventional acquisition channels. As the industry embraces collaboration, strategic alliances emerge as a powerful catalyst for growth and competitive advantage. You can have a closer look for some examples on the slide. Acquire you not? The pharmaceutical industry has established itself as a champion in mergers and acquisitions. The slide showcases the criteria used for acquisition selection in the industry. Big pharma companies are known for their active involvement in M&A deals, often acquiring smaller companies or development stage drug assets to maximize market potential. M&A serves as a strategic tool to bolster R&D efforts, as it allows big pharma to tap into the innovation potential of startups and diversify their pipeline with minimal risk. This approach enables the industry to navigate the costly and risky nature of R&D while driving innovation and growth. The following two slides illustrate examples of acquisitions in the pharmaceutical industry in 2022. Pfizer strategically acquired Biohaven in the pharma industry. This acquisition aimed to gain access to Biohaven's CGRP franchise, particularly their innovative migraine drug, Nurtec. Prior to the acquisition, Pfizer and Biohaven were marketing partners. The deal not only strengthened Pfizer's position in the migraine drug market, but also facilitated Biohaven's expansions into new international markets for Nurtec. This example highlights how merger and acquisition in the pharma industry enables companies to enhance their product portfolio and global market presence, fostering growth and innovation in a competitive market landscape. Here are some further examples. Feel free to pause and have a closer look on it. In the rapidly evolving pharma industry, M&A alone is no longer sufficient to maintain competitiveness. As margins decline and costs rise, strategic alliances and joint ventures have emerged as essential strategies. The slide illustrates the value chain and various forms of alliances, with joint ventures appearing more rigid and other alliances offering greater flexibility. These alliances address the challenges faced by Big Pharma, providing cost-effective alternatives to drive R&D innovation, leverage expertise, and access new markets. Whether for R&D collaboration, knowledge sharing, or commercialization purpose, the pharma industry increasingly relies on strategic alliances and joint ventures to navigate the changing landscape and ensure long-term success. The slide illustrates some examples of companies establishing strategic alliances across the value chain. Feel free to pause and have a closer look. The same applies here. Thank you for your attention to the chapter on strategic alliances. I will now hand on over to my colleague Matt, who will analyze the national competitiveness.
Next, we'll be looking at part 4, the national competitiveness of the pharmaceutical industry. So we chose to look at the US for the national competitiveness. The US is the largest and most diverse market for pharmaceuticals in the world, accounting for over 40% of all global pharmaceutical sales. The US has a strong base of scientific and technical knowledge, as well as well-developed R&D infrastructure and a large pool of skilled workers. To begin with, we'll be looking at the national diamond model for the US. We'll be looking at the factor conditions. The first one being the strong scientific and technical knowledge, as the US is accountable for 30% of the world's scientific output, and it also has a few other leading institutions, such as NIH and the CDC. They also have a well-developed research and development infrastructure, as they're home to over 1,100 different biotech and pharmaceutical companies. They have a large pool of highly skilled workers. They have over 1 million in the healthcare profession alone. They have a favorable regulatory environment that encourages innovation and protects intellectual property rights, and they also create further incentives for investments into R&D. The second part of the diamond model is the demand conditions. We'll be looking at the large and diverse population, as the US is home to over 320 million people, and that can lead to a significant market for the pharmaceutical industry. There's a high demand for the healthcare services, as that also can create an opportunity for innovation and creation of new drugs and treatments. There's also a low income parity in the US, as some drugs can be very expensive for lower class and lower income people, pushing some people out of the market. So the next part of the diamond model is the related and supporting industries. These industries are extremely important, not just to the US, but also to the rest of the world, as they ultimately benefit the patients in need of these essential drugs and therapies. So the first part of these is the healthcare providers. So the healthcare providers includes hospitals, clinics, and other healthcare practitioners who prescribe and administer drugs to patients. The next industry is the health insurance providers. So the health insurance providers play a significant role in determining the price and availability of pharmaceutical products. The next one is the distributors and wholesalers. So they are the ones responsible for the storing and distribution of the pharmaceutical products before they reach the end users. You have the retail pharmacies and drugstores, which are the final points of sale for the pharmaceutical products to the end consumers. There are the suppliers of equipment and technology. The pharmaceutical field is extremely technological and requires specialized equipment and technology to produce and test drugs as well as to store them. The last part being the logistics sector, as they play a vital role in the transportation and storage of the different drugs and treatments that are used, along with the distribution of them. The U.S. pharmaceutical industry is characterized by intense competition among companies. There are many large multinational pharmaceutical companies, such as Pfizer, Merck, Johnson & Johnson, as well as numerous smaller firms. Competition in the industry is driven by factors such as patent protection, pricing, R&D, marketing, and regulatory approval. Companies in the U.S. pharmaceutical industry also differentiate themselves through their strategies and structures. For example, some companies focus on developing generic drugs, while others focus on developing novel drugs. Some companies have a decentralized structure, while others have a more centralized structure. This rivalry among companies has led to innovation and development of new drugs and treatments. However, it has also led to concerns about rising drug prices and the influence of the industry on healthcare policy. So the U.S. has a pretty robust regulatory framework for drug approval with the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. They also have a strong intellectual property protections, with the World Intellectual Property Organization ranking the country first in its Global Innovation Index 2020 for intellectual property protection. The U.S. government provides funding for drug development through organizations like NIH, which is the National Institute of Health, and the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. These organizations provide funding for basic research as well as for the development of drugs and vaccines for emerging infectious diseases and bioterrorism threats. So chance factors can also play a significant role in shaping the industry's success or failure, like a chance discovery of a new drug or breakthrough in technology can provide a competitive advantage to a firm, leading to its success. On the other hand, unexpected regulatory changes, economic downturns, or even natural disasters can negatively impact the industry and disrupt the supply chain. These chance events can also affect the demand for pharmaceutical products. The outbreaks of a new disease, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, can significantly increase the demand for vaccines and therapeutics, creating opportunities for firms that can respond quickly to this new demand. However, the pandemic can also disrupt supply chains and regulatory processes, creating further challenges for firms. So the U.S. plays a pretty large role in regulating the pharmaceutical industry through agencies such as the FDA and the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So the FDA is responsible for regulating the safety and efficacy of drugs, while the CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, is responsible for administrating the federal healthcare programs like Medicare and Medicaid. So Medicare is the federal health insurance program that provides coverage to people over the age of 65 and to those with certain disabilities. And Medicare Part D is a prescription drug benefit that provides coverage for prescription drugs for Medicare beneficiaries. Medicare also negotiates the drug prices with the private insurers and with the pharmacy benefit managers to secure lower prices. Medicaid is the joint federal-state program that provides healthcare coverage to low-income individuals and families. So each state administers its own Medicaid program within federal guidelines, and prescription drug coverage is an optional benefit that states can choose to offer. This allows the states to negotiate drug prices with manufacturers to also secure the lower prices. So the U.S. is also strong in intellectual property protections and with the drug development through the NIH and BARDA. And when it comes to chance discoveries or breakthroughs can provide a competitive advantage to firms. However, unexpected regulatory changes and other unforeseen situations can disrupt the supply chain. We saw one thing such as COVID-19 that broke down the supply chain, even though it did offer up innovation in the form of the COVID vaccine. So now we're going to go over the competitive industry versus the competitive related industry. So in the US, the competitive industry is biotech, and the related industry would be education and R&D. And that's as the education provides the knowledge, skills, and talent necessary to succeed in biotech, and the biotech invests heavily in R&D and collaborates to advance scientific knowledge. Switzerland is competitive in precision medicine, and the related industry in that is the precision engineering. Germany in the medical devices, and the related one is logistics. And Germany tends to partner with a few logistic companies, and they do that partnership to enhance the efficiency of the delivery of their supply chain. Japan is competitive in their regenerative medicine, and the related industry to that is stem cell research. And India is competitive in generic drugs, and the competitive related industry to that is the contract manufacturing. So this is the pharmaceutical cluster in the US that creates and promotes innovation, collaboration, and growth for the leading companies, which include Pfizer, Merck, and Johnson & Johnson, and is constantly adapting to emerging trends in the field and tends to collaborate with academic institutions and other organizations to advance R&D. So there are many environmental elements that each pharmaceutical company must face. They include the regulatory environment, as it is highly regulated and there are strict guidelines set by different governmental agencies. In the US, that would be the FDA. There are the technological advancements, as this field is heavily reliant on technology, and companies continually invest in R&D to remain competitive. There's the social and cultural factors. This includes the changing attitudes towards health and wellness, the access to healthcare, and the rising prevalence of chronic diseases. There's also a focus on the environmental sustainability, as it has a large impact on the environment in terms of the production of drugs, but also in the disposal of waste products, which includes the hazardous materials and plastics. There's the political environment, which often focuses on the government policies, trade agreements, and intellectual property laws. However, the pharma industry does invest a lot into lobbying to try to get favorable policies. There's the economic environment that most industries have to deal with, that is impacted by exchange rates, interest rates, and inflation. Then there's the supply chain environment which the pharmaceutical industry is heavily relying on the supply chain to produce and distribute drugs. So now we're going to look at the uncertainty patterns of the pharmaceutical industry. And we have kind of four different categories. There's the low control, over uncertainty versus the high control, and you have the high uncertainty and the low uncertainty. So with the low control but the high uncertainty, you have the unpredictable pattern, which can be things like the regulatory changes, the technological breakthroughs, or public health emergencies, which we saw with COVID-19. With the low control, low uncertainty, you have the restricted pattern, which includes the economic conditions, whether there's like a recession or inflation, just general economic growth, or changes in intellectual property rights or challenges to existing patents. With the high control and the high uncertainty, you have the comprehensive pattern, such as the digital business trends, which is like selling drugs online and changing to more of a digital business model, and the environmental sustainability and kind of the waste that it produces. With the high control but the low uncertainty, you have the predictable pattern. So the changes in population demographics, whether aging population, which usually leads to an increasing demand, if there's a change in customer demand, whether people are finding it more convenient to buy online, and you have emerging markets. So if there's a growing middle class, there may be an increasing demand. So there is a bit of uncertainty as the current political environment is dominated by two opposing trends, which is whether to globalize or deglobalize. So the globalization trend was heightened by COVID-19 with supranational collaborations, increased trust in institutions such as the World Health Organization, and solidarity to provide vaccines to poor nations. The deglobalization is a newer trend rising from current geopolitical tensions in Europe and between US and China, and the rise of nationalism in several countries, which could result in the future of a fragmented pharma ecosystem. And there's also whether to go with generalization or specification on important decisions. So the generalization is to go about previous analysis of M&A and possibly strategic alliances that show the focus of capital on more lucrative branches, such as oncology, rare diseases, and new cutting-edge biotech drugs. On the other hand, COVID-19 revived the interest in the pharma industry about public health and population-focused drugs, and that the social demographic analysis of the demand trends, show a more health-conscious trend and generation coming up, and an aging population suggest future interest in drugs that are more preventive and lifestyle related, and more focused on the overall public health. Next, we'll be looking at the strategic scenarios for the pharma industry. So for the first part, we'll be focusing on the focus on high-end drugs. So when we combine that with the globalization outlook, it's kind of a transformative healing. And there's a few things that goes on, such as the major scientific innovations, especially in biotech and nanotech, that focuses on curative therapies that are complex and highly personalized. It also looks at how China is leading in the way of pharma, as the distance between science and technology is getting more blurred, and that competition is becoming more intense and is driven by the larger companies buying intellectual property from startups and smaller companies, and It's part of the reason why M&As are at the all-time high. There's also the deglobalization part of that, which is kind of dividing. It focuses on kind of political conflict and a rise of nationalism, where the pharma landscape in each region and country might impact its supply chain. And due to that disruption, it can put delays in research, development, and delays in resources that it needs. So with a focus on kind of a broad spectrum of drugs, with the globalization, you have kind of a sustainable flow. So the flow of capital is increasingly geared towards sustainability and social justice right now. And it can be reflected by a focus on public health and the population drugs that keep being innovated. It can also be more towards kind of knowledge sharing and increasing partnerships and increasing the collaborations between high-end companies. And that there's also some parts of the intellectual property, especially with COVID, of it being shared or being produced with another company. And with that generalization, that broad spectrum, with the deglobalization, you kind of have a deprioritizing of the high-end drugs. So it's more of that the healthcare system cost can't really support the high-end drugs in an aging population. But it's also kind of a bit fragmented in the pharmaceutical industry, with research funding in certain areas where they may back out or go into if they can't get it from one area. But also it goes towards the lifestyle and prevention medicine that is kind of the newer trend.
This was our analysis of the pharmaceutical industry, and we want to thank you very much for your attention and for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed doing this analysis.